excited to talk about this topic today, friendships that fade, because we have kind of covered before about like friendships that end, but this is a little bit different. Today we're going to get into more of like the ones that just sort of like fade into oblivion. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited to hear your thoughts on this. I'm excited to give my thoughts on this. Shout out to our producer, Seth, for coming up with this topic idea, along with many others that you're going to hear in season 5. He is killing it.
I know. I'm excited to talk about this one. And just like you said, everything that he sent us, I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Like, it's so fresh, so fun. And immediately it's like,
Yeah.
these are going to be so engaging and great. And we're just so thankful to have him on board. So, again, we love you, Seth. Thank you.
So let's get into it. For me, the first thing that comes to mind, I'm thinking about some friends that moved away, right? They lived here. We were really tight while they were here. And then for whatever reason, something took them, either to another state or another city. And so I think about those friendships that have sort of faded over time. What I will say is that I do make a point to connect with those people. So while they have faded in some respects, like I'm not seeing them every day, when we do get together, we do tend to just fall right back into where we left off. Because let's face it, this is a busy season of life. If you're a midlifer, you're just hanging on for dear life at this point. And so we don't have time to really put in a ton of effort into our friendships. And I mean, for a long time, I would say our friendship had faded. We'd see
Sure.
each other when I
Mm
was in town, but we didn't talk every day like we do now or
hmm.
even
Mm hmm.
text,
Mm hmm.
regularly. So it's so easy to sort of let things fade, especially when it's somebody you don't see every day.
Yeah. I think that's one big factor. Like you said, a move or some environmental like thing separates you, as in like distance. And then it's another thing, like whenever life circumstances or the lack of evolution within the relationship is maybe what causes it to fade.
But you have to be really intentional. Like once you don't have those contrived sort of situations where you're going to see each other, whether your kids go to school together or they're playing on the same soccer team or whatever it is, um, it really takes a lot of like scheduling effort to get
Mm-hmm.
together. Even though you're going to have a good time, you enjoy their company, it's still like at the end of the day, there's only so much time. And, that's why, a lot of times I'll send a text like, hey, thinking about you. And I haven't seen you in months or talk to you face to face, but I just want you to know, like, you do cross my mind. And I try to be pretty intentional about that because those people mean something. And I don't want them to think that they don't, or that, because I don't see you all the time, I don't ever think of you anymore.
Yeah, that's reciprocal though, isn't it? So what do you do then? I guess if like you send that text or you send that post or whatever it is, a thought, a reconnection, and you get
Hmm.
crickets back, or it's just
Yeah,
like a
that
delayed
happens sometimes
response, like
too.
then what? Like then what happens then?
Well, I think it just, now I'm at an age where I'm like, it doesn't hurt my feelings anymore because I get it. Everybody's busy. But those aren't people that are also going to make the effort or be intentional about getting together with me. It's funny because that actually just happened where I had like commented on something and then that person sent me a DM and in response to something that I had sent them like a month or two ago, you know? And so it just, again, I think you just kind of have to, we kind of put people in buckets, right? You got different buckets of people and friendships sort of like wax and wane. But I don't think there's ever anything wrong with just like putting yourself out there. I don't, there are people I worked with that I would have called, friends of mine 5 years ago, and I haven't seen them since I quit that job. And so, same thing, you have to just kind of recognize it for what it is, in that, like, what do they say? Some people are just meant to be in your life for a season. Some people aren't meant to be lifers, and so recognizing that, but I don't think there's ever anything wrong with reaching out to somebody and letting them know you're thinking about them, particularly if nothing bad ever happened, no fallout ever occurred.
Yeah, I think that that's the biggest thing. Like if you were ending a relationship because of some fight or conflict or toxicity, then that's one thing. But whenever
Right.
it's just like a slow burn to its own kind of like, I don't know that death's the right word, but just like you said, like a fade, then
Mm-hmm.
it just is what it is. And it doesn't have any harm associated with it, but there's still, I think, an element of loss or letdown that can occur. And I'm thinking of a situation kind of that happened a little bit with my husband. He had a friend that he really enjoyed kind of talking with, that he really felt like they shared a lot of similar life experiences. Um, and there was just not a whole lot of effort on the other end to be kind of committed to even like following through like on a chat, or like they would try to schedule like Zooms or whatever, because again, distance does play a factor in things. And, he'd always kind of be sitting there on Zoom, waiting for somebody to join. And at first, it kind of became one of those like long standing jokes like, hey, missed this one again. Sorry, man. Hey, missed this one again. Sorry, man. And then
Right.
at like month 11, and we're still doing
Right.
this. I
Yeah.
mean, for me, I would have not invested past like probably, I don't know. I just don't have that long of an investment period. You know what I mean? If I keep trying to put myself out there or on something, I'm not going to make it to month 11. I might
Yeah.
make it to the end of month 1. Um, but that's just a difference in our two personalities. Right? He has much more
True
patience
story.
than I have, much more patience in different things than each other. But, at the end of that, it was just kind of like a really sad kind of thing, because at that point, it's like you realize maybe you didn't have anything to kind of start with.
Mm.
I
So it
don't
feels like
know.
rejection.
Or just kind of
Yeah,
like a
and I think
loss in a sense.
yeah, and I keep reminding myself that everybody is going through something and that you just never know. Like we only have so much capacity at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day. And I look at my husband who has the same group of friends that he has had since college. Like, if you asked him who his best friends were, it's all the guys that were in our wedding, right? Like, I could put a picture up of all the guys that were in our wedding, and he still communicates. I'm trying to think if there's anybody in that group that he doesn't. I mean, I think every single one of them he still communicates with pretty regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them are on like a group chat. But like, I think about the women that were in my wedding, and like, I don't talk to any of them. And it's not to mean that like there was one that I had a falling out with, but the others, there was nothing. It was just like you said, kind of like a slow burn of like, you just sort of lose touch over time. And I have a group, my core group of girlfriends here in Charleston that we always laugh and we're like, gosh, if we got married today, like you all would totally be in my wedding. Like you are my girls, you're my rock. And I think that there's something to be said. And I tell my kids this too. Like it's okay to have different groups of friends throughout life. Like that's going
Mm-hmm.
to change over time just by the nature of the beast, right? Like who you
Mm-hmm.
spend time with a lot of times in our season of life has to do with like what your kids are involved with, what neighborhood you live in, right? Those are like, that's mostly how, or the people that you're going to see on a regular basis, the kids that you're, or the parents of kids that your kids go to school with. And so I think that again, as I get older, I don't take those things personally anymore. I definitely used to take it personally. And now I'm just kind of like, I get it. Like, we're all just trying to survive day in and day out. Like, I look at my calendar for next month and it makes me start sweating immediately. And I'm like, I don't, I was trying to plan like to go to yoga with a friend earlier today. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll see you in June if that even works out because it's just you're trying to schedule things and it's really hard if there's not that natural like built in I'm going to see you, at soccer on Saturday or whatever.
Yeah, friendships have almost transitioned into a point of convenience, and even more so onto a land of proximity. I mean, that's how we all made friends as kids, like who was in your classroom,
Mm,
who lived on your street. Well, things really haven't
absolutely.
again. They haven't changed as adults, but I think what does is
No.
our perspective whenever they're no longer there. And then
Hmm.
you may run into them or see them or hear a story about them. It almost kind of invokes maybe like a feeling of nostalgia or just reconnection, sadness, disappointment. I don't know. A whole lot of other things that can kind of awkwardness, maybe that. Like I'm thinking even about
Yeah,
like our,
that's a good one.
yeah, like our high school reunion and stuff like that. I know is going to be coming up and we'll probably talk a little bit about this, but you know, there's some connections that we had, some friendships that were pretty close, and those are going to be people that we're going to be seeing, and I'm sure it'll be really fun for a weekend. Um, and then it'll just, I don't know, maybe it won't feel more weird, maybe it will. I kind of think it might. It'll be definitely awkward,
Definitely awkward. I mean, those situations are always awkward.
especially like both people acknowledge that the relationship isn't like where it was or where it could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
That also is something that is a little challenging maybe to sit with. I don't know. Awkward is just the word that keeps popping up.
Yeah, and I get that. I mean, there's definitely people I can think of, friendships, like deep, deep friendships that I've had in life. And like, again, for whatever reason, like, and they just fade into oblivion. And there is something that kind of stings about it. Like, well, am I not worth like you like texting me once in a blue moon to say hey or happy birthday? Like, you know, my birthday. Like, um, but then I have to think like, well, I'm sure there are people out there that feel that way about me. I'm sure there are people that I sort of faded into oblivion and they wonder the same thing about me. I think I just am trying to be way more self-aware before I start like getting my feelings hurt or judging someone else's behavior, like also really like examining my own behavior in this regard. Because I'm certain that other people feel that way. And it's not just me. And I think that's where it's easier not to take it so personally anymore. It's just life. It just, what's meant to be won't miss you. And if it was meant to be long term, like us, I mean, there was a good, like those years between, I would say college, like late
Mm-hmm.
college through grad school. I mean, like, I couldn't even tell you how many times we talked in those few years. I mean, you did
Mm-hmm.
come to my wedding, so I mean, clearly we were still in contact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
but even then, like you were in such a different part of your life, right? You were in graduate school or get you were finishing and doing like your clinical stuff and then you had a child. Like we were just in total and I was still like partying hardy at that point. And so it was different times. And so I think again, it just didn't allow for us to have like a ton in common or a ton of time to connect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that we were both patient and understanding those circumstances and didn't see malice in it. And I think that that's why our
Sure.
relationship was able to hold up so long. And it is where it's at today is because of those factors right there. Like again, nothing life happened but every time you came in, we try to, you know what I mean, see each other, go to a Marshall game, whatever, kind
Yeah.
of just a little bit here and there. Or at least I knew you'd be in around Christmas time and stuff. But I think whenever a relationship is like that, then it's easier just to kind of reconnect on. And then if you get around that person and everything falls back into place, then it really hasn't ever faded. It's just been stretched a little bit, or it's been, just at a different place in space with things. But I think the awkwardness sets in is whenever maybe you get the opportunity to see that person from that relationship that's kind of went into the oblivion, and then it's like, you don't even know who they are, or they
Mm.
don't know who you
Mm-hmm.
are, or you don't even know what to say anymore because there's just been so much space that's kind of come in between it. And again, it doesn't mean that there's been malice or hurt or anything, but it just creates its own seed of like, hey, like this is, you know, nice to see you. You too, you
Yeah,
know?
there's always a little bit of awkwardness. It doesn't matter. Even if you do eventually, like I had a friend that moved to Hong Kong, and I remember the first time like we got together, it had been over 5 years. She had had 3 kids at that point, so it was like how's this going to be, right? And then it was totally cool, and it was like we fell right back into it, and I remember like being so nervous to meet up with that person just for that exact reason. Like you're like, is this going to be awkward? Are we going to have anything to talk about? And it seems like more often than not, it does always just fall into place. I mean, at your core, you're probably mostly who you were. I'd like to think that
Mhm.
about myself anyway. I don't know. Do you feel that way or do you feel like you've
Mhm.
changed a lot?
I on one hand, I'd like to say for the purposes of self-development that yes, of course I've changed a lot. I've done a lot of but I I don't know. I think that. I probably need outside perspective on this. I still feel like I'm almost, but that's just because I don't put a lot of value or weight on what other people think. So I've never really
Yeah.
cared that much too. It's all about, I mean, I hate to say it that way, but it's how do I think about myself, and am I happy with the person I am today and presenting today? Am I staying authentic and true to who I am? And I feel like I've always done that. And it's probably not always been in my favor, but I can acknowledge that. But
Right.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty much the same person I've always been. We'll find out. Maybe we should do this as a poll for our 25-year reunion. Is this person the
Seriously.
same as they've been? That might
Well,
be
it will
fun.
be interesting to revisit this after our reunion and be like, "Wow, what was that like?" Right? Because our 20th, we graduated in the year 2000, best class ever, and we were supposed to have our reunion in 2020. It was all planned and it got canceled, and so this is the first time we're all seeing each other since our 10-year reunion. For those people that came, which we had a pretty good turnout from what I recall. I don't know, I had a
Mm-hmm.
blast at our 10-year
It
reunion.
was
So,
really fun.
um, it was like there were like two different groups of people. There were like the people that had families, and then like the people like me that were like, no families, just raging on over here with my boat and party life. Not that I was like wild, but I didn't have a family. I don't even know if I was married then, but at any rate, it'll be very interesting to kind of revisit this topic after that because we will have seen many people, hopefully, that we haven't seen in a long time.
I do think that it is fun to reconnect, though. Like, there's a group of girls here that I've just recently, we went out to dinner like a month ago. But it was just, again, it was easy once we kind of all got together. But there are those like pauses or awkwardness where we're like, hey, yeah, I saw this on Facebook, saw this on Instagram, congratulations, kind of a
Right.
thing. But then, you're able to kind of slip in back to like, oh my gosh, no way kind of situations. And it makes it easy again.
That is such an interesting caveat. Like you're saying, like we have the benefit of social media. So even though you haven't spoken to somebody in several years, you could know everything about their life, or at least their highlight reel. And so you're like, oh, I know you have two kids and a boy and a girl. And I know that you're married and this is your second husband. Like there's so
Mhm.
much you can know about someone without actually having a conversation with them. That's even like somewhat awkward the first time you meet somebody. If you've already followed them on Instagram or on social media, you're like, oh, I already know a ton about you. And, but you're also still like trying to like make conversation. Um, and so I think, on one hand, I think that's a real benefit. Like I've ran into people when I'm in town, in West Virginia, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I see you on social media, blah blah blah," and like there's something about that, like where you still feel connected to them in some way.
Yeah, whenever I think about it now that we've said it out loud, it feels like we could almost use that as an excuse to not reach out to somebody. Like I already know
Mm,
what's going on in their life, or I see everything that's happening, or it creates an illusion of connectiveness that really isn't there. And also, if this was happening whenever we were kids, this would be called stalking. So if I run into somebody that I hadn't seen in like 25 years, right? And you know
yeah,
everything about me, but also haven't reached out
for
and said
sure.
hi, that's weird.
Right,
You know?
right,
And I don't think I'd do that. I mean, if
right,
I'm friends with somebody, I'm at least going to comment or like something here and there, or just be like,
for sure. I'm
just
not
not
just
be
gonna
like
like look at their
creepy.
stuff and then mosey on my way. Yeah, like that is a little stalker-ish. But I don't know. I do find it interesting that it's a way to still know very much like a lot about a person. You're like, oh yeah, I saw that on social. Like, how many times have you been in a conversation with somebody, you're catching up, and you're like, well, they're like, what have you been into? And you're like, well, I'd be like, well, I just went to the Bahamas and then I went on spring break down to Florida. And they're like, oh, yeah, I saw your social media post. It's like, cool, cool. I guess I don't need to tell you the details. We swam with dolphins and saw a sea turtle. Oh, you saw that? Okay, cool, cool. Like that almost like inhibits your conversations a little bit.
I think I'm just at a point in my life where I really prioritize. And this is like shifting priorities, something else I think we'll end up talking about. Like, what am I investing in? And it is most
Mm-hmm.
important for me that I am investing in myself, my family, you know what I mean? My relationships that are reciprocal.
Yeah.
And I just don't reach outside of that bucket. And I
Yeah.
have really made a promise almost to myself that if I feel a relationship is obligatory, I don't, it's
Mm,
not genuine for me as a human being to be in it. And I'm really trying again to be 100% genuine and not just like a people pleaser or going along with things because I should, or there's family, or there's friends, or it will look bad. You know, all of these messages we tell ourselves about like
right.
people and relationships. I'm just not doing any of that anymore
Yeah.
because it just wasn't effective. Not that it
I
ever
love
did or didn't create problems. It just didn't work. Like if I'm, it just didn't work. So
it
I'm
just
not
didn't work.
doing that.
And I loved the episode we did called I Said What I Said,
Hmm.
where we go into a deep dive on that of like refusing to be a part of forced relationships of any sort, friendships, anything. Just refusing to put ourselves in that situation. So if that is a topic that strikes a chord with you, check out that episode because that's a good one. And I've had a lot of people reach out to me like, I love that episode. And I personally also love that episode because it's just also realizing like you say, we only have so much time and like what I'm putting my energy into has to be worth it. Um, and I also think for the ones that just sort of fade, it's okay to recognize or even like have some peace about like at one point you did really put a lot into that relationship or friendship. And now I'm giving my energy to something else, my kids and
Hmm.
my husband and my extended family and like that's one thing the older I get, I have definitely developed deeper relationships with like my extended family and my in-laws and like those people those are my lifers and so those are the people that I'm really investing time in, not so much like trying to have a million friendships. I got
Yeah.
my core group of girls and that's okay. That's all I need.
Peace to all those who have faded away.
Peace to all those that have faded into oblivion. All right. Well, I think we covered this. And if you want to hear more about friendships, I mean, I'm always willing to talk about this. I love this topic, but we have some really special guests on the docket for season 5. So make sure you're tuning in, hit that subscribe and like button, send it to your friends and family. We are really trying to grow this podcast community. This is a really big goal for us in season 5. So if you listen to us, we would appreciate any love that you give to us in return. So thanks for listening to this episode. Until next week, y'all. Lilas.
We're out.